What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Mystics MMOs. I'm your host, Mystic Raven. All right, we got some dailies, got to get some randoms. I finally got this build put together, so I think we'll actually I'll also record this so I can get footage for this build. So this build is done. Finally, all rooms, of course, Worm. I still like Worm a lot. It's a nice recovery for me and my group. It's only 140, but and the new set that's coming out is really good. And if I had my way, I would replace Worm with that set and run Spell Power Cure versus all rooms. And probably in the future, I will implement that build specifically on specific healers that utilize Worm. So it's a nice set that replaces Worm, right? But the fact of it is, you're still either going to have Spell Power Cure or all rooms. One of the two. So if you use the trials, one of those trial sets, you know what I'm saying? Any of the new ones, you go Spell Power Cure, right? Because you don't want minor Aegis twice, but it's a good setup for replacement pieces. So I kind of like that. I really do. I think it's great. I'm having a good time back. I think a lot of people get silenced. My critics, they get they're like, oh, I object. And then I'm like, well, then rebuttal. They have nothing to say. They throw hissies. Huffy puffy. And it takes me back. It takes me back to everything I've had to deal with from those morons from the get. I'm not realizing, I've said time and time again, I've been doing this longer than you. Experience is a bitch. Sorry, but not sorry. I'm not your average player. I'm not. And I don't want to get toxic. I just want to provide content for average players. I'm appealing to an audience that may or may not do certain content. So to provide viable solutions and builds is what I've set out to do, and to educate people who would otherwise not have known any better. That's all. That's it. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. But it's funny because a lot of content creators make fake accounts to watch me in disguise, hiding. But that's where they get the information. They come here. Wow. Because they don't know. They don't. After all this time as content creators and as players, you would think that they would actually learn something along the way. But instead, they want to question you. And then it turns out to be that way. And then they really look like dumbasses. It's like, okay. And I've been wrong. I have been wrong. Sane Gaming, check him out, has corrected me twice. And he doesn't always agree with me. There's people who don't always agree with me. So an opinion can be separated from facts. But there are certain facts that you can't denounce. Like Templars and Radiant Aura versus Ellie Drain. You can't denounce that Radiant Aura applies magic steel to all surrounding enemies, where Ellie Drain has to be applied individually. There's no opinion to that. That's a fact. So opinions can differ from facts, and I can even be wrong. But I actually am not a prideful person. I like when I'm wrong because I learned something, and I feel we all can learn something, right? So that's the best thing. But we got toxic community from the rip when I first stepped into the game, right? That's the way it's always been. But, can anybody really take away knowledge once you've acquired it? No. I've always said, my world is not what it used to be. But the one thing I have maintained throughout my years is my knowledge. right? My experiences. And I would say the same for anything, to anybody. They can take anything away from you, but they can never take away your experiences. They can never take away what you've learned. And that is the most important element in life. Like, everything else comes and goes, but what you've acquired in the perspective remains with you. And I believe that carries over, in my personal opinion. So I actually can't believe it. Nothing's queuing. It's pretty good dailies too. So, yo, Irish, what's up? I'm enjoying PC a lot. It's beautiful and it works so much better than the skills, but not as delayed. And add-ons are amazing. Yeah, dressing room is so incredible. Yeah, dude, it is. It is, man. I'm glad you're here, and I hope you got on PTS, man. Checked out some of that stuff. By the way, how's the content I'm doing, brother? Be honest with me, because you know me more than anybody. So I appreciate like your feedback. Am I going overboard, or am I just being good old Mystic? I can honestly. We just lost a fucking tank. This is some bullshit. I bet you it wasn't a tank.
Due diligence.
Bullshit.
It's why I'm alive and you're.
I like this build though. I really love this build. Fucking shit. Having to start over is annoying, especially crafting, but it's free. It's a freeing in a way, but I do miss my millions of gold. That's not fun, right. You know what? Though I find gold to be trivial unless you're looking for something. Like everybody's like, I'll pay you for. I'm like, money means nothing to me. We're going to need a tank. Did you notice fake tanks like exit this really quick? They exit it. They don't fuck around. We're gonna need a tank.
Head through the far chamber. I'll see where this door leads. Try not to wind up like
Why? Should I even ask? Stop. Now. I'll just drop and log on to somebody else. I try to warn people. Content is spot on. Thank you, brother. One thing you can't argue with is math. Yeah, right? And yours is spot on. Builds are great. Stam Sork is really good, and DK Healer is actually amazing. Thanks, brother. Thank you. I try to put very serious. I try to get serious about it. You know me. And the thing about it is, at the end of the day, I want, like I said, if I'm going to put out something, I want to put it out where it's accessible, and things are optional, and I don't want people to I don't want to be an elite ass. I'm already an ass. I don't need to be an elite ass. So I'm like, I don't need to go there. I just feel like, most of the time, I don't need to go to a certain part. And that's the funny thing. It's like force damage. Right now, Zoss is nerfing Pen. And what's the meta players? Go to this one dude. He's the most toxic idiot probably in ESO is Nefask or some shit. Seriously, this dude is even dumber than Outcast. And Outcast is one of the most talented players, but he's very, very dim at times. He's one of the most talented players I've ever watched is Outcast, but as far as having all of his ducks in a row, no, he's never had all of his ducks in a row. But Nesfax is actually worse because he actually believes all of his ducks are in a row and they actually never were or are. Then he tries to talk shit, but then he looks like a fucking idiot because he's talking stems or blah. I'm not saying other configurations are. I was watching this video and I was like, yeah, how many people are talking about this? So of course I went to this toxic fuck, and then there was a video about mags being superior, and then he was talking about a pen. Right? And I was like, this mother, he's just so fucking clueless. He's just so fucking clueless. And I'm like, this dude doing it when it no shit. And then he breaks out a fucking chart with the configurations. And that's why I started laughing my nuts off, even worse. And I'm like, I'm like, dude, you wouldn't know. Congratulations on your accomplishments. You're still fucking stupid as fuck.
There's an urgent task for you.
You are still stupid as fuck, dude. You are still such a fucking idiot. And like I said, I've already made my mark in this game. I've already made my mark. It's because of me that they even knew about penetrating levels to begin with. Because, like I said, at the beginning of time in the ESO universe, they were fucking ignoring just even things. This motherfucker, I think, is one of the dipshits who are putting daggers on mag tunes. I'm not sure, but I could see him being the one of the fucks that do it.
What are you waiting? I should pop in on a stream if he streams. Please tell me. Inform me so much. But that fucking kill is fucking crazy. That kill is nuts. And I don't mean to call him out. I don't want to, but I have to. Because they say, oh, you're toxic. Excuse me? Excuse me. Let's rewind this, shall we? I'm not telling players not to play builds. I'm not telling players their builds are trash. I'm not telling players, how to play content. That's who was the ones doing that? That's my question. Because all you have to do is watch them. That's all you have to do. Tune in. And yet you'll have thousands of other morons who listen to it. And that just brings me back to the point. Mass stupidity is apparent. It's apparent. They keep chasing after one stat, and then they don't realize that yes, their damage goes up the closer they get to 100, but they fail to realize that their diminishing return is being deducted from their base damage. So as ZOS is nerfing, they keep chasing crit, and that does nerf their damage. That's what ZOS is anticipating, because they can never get close to that 100%. Thus, their base damage is still insanely low, because they keep putting everything into critical value. And then guess what ends up happening? They don't know how to now readjust. So that's because they never knew. Had they actually really known, they would actually just been like, fuck that. I'm staying in between these margins, because my base and my critical are going to be very high, and even when I don't crit, I'm still going to hit that on my metrics. ZOS can't nerf everything to the ground to the point where it's unplayable. And like I said, the scaling system actually goes kind of against them. So, like I said, as a stand player, I'm just like, fuck this, man. I'll force damage. I'll force it.
horrifying sight.
I'll force it at this
Residents
particular
of Dire
moment.
Frost Keep appear to have been fleeing,
You know?
but now they're frozen in time.
I mean, do I want to get like that? Be like that? Not really. I've always wanted to promote a very positive, non-exploiting element to the game that is fundamentally sound, right? But at this particular moment, Zos is like leaving me no choice. And then as they do this, they throw out gimmicks. Like this morning, I go in over that Gaze of Sithis. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous set. It's a ridiculous piece. Ridiculous. Chow down. Oh shit.
This is the Dire Frost flame I read about in Windhelm.
Yes?
Yeah, I need to get rid of like all this stuff.
According to my notes, I need a relic called the Torch of Airs to light
Torch
the flame
of
located in the
Airs.
Hall of the Dead. My map shows the hall.
This
down
build's
side
almost
passage,
done.
it seems.
And then the Templar build I've got to piece together, but that'll come out before this build. I mean, do I want to crit? Yeah, I'd like to crit. I like critting. I think everybody likes to crit. But at this particular moment, it's not worth fighting for. And now they bring out another crit piece to, you know, incentivize, which brings it up to about 5% if you don't get hit. But if you get hit, that's the issue, is the trash mob. During boss fights, to have an extra 5% on critical, yeah, it's very delicious. It's, you know, especially with all these nerfs. But had the nerfs not happen, it wouldn't be predominant. Hence my other problem. It's like, man, I'm so sick of you guys changing the rules to promote gimmicks, man. It's like, you know, I'm so fucking done. You're like, we're nerfing DPS, but wait a minute. If you get the new content, you won't notice it so dramatically, right? On the other platform. What?
I've traveled here for naught. The gate to the crypt is locked, probably opened by the pair of pressure plates here, and me with no companion. Without the torch, I can't light the flame. Regrettable, but I'll return.
Stand on plate. Oh my god, thank you. What are these? Are these new players? Yeah, they're new. Isn't it crazy though that you're not gonna, you like literally can have very little to no pen? I'll probably still use a sharpen on everything but a Bosner, but I'm not gonna pick up like the lover. I won't. I'll settle for under 5, and I'll still use the sword, and I'll still, you know, use. Now I'll replace it with the warrior, and like I did with the I knew the Bosner doesn't have weapon damage in his passives, and that's why I could use Hundings for the initial scale, so it gets it up there with my Stamps work over the 7. I knew that. That's why I said these guys don't even know that. They don't even understand that there are indifferent values and way to make up value based on the race and the class, and that's why to me they're a fucking joke. They're a fucking joke. They're completely a fucking. They're pathetic. They don't understand the numbers. They never did. Ever. They don't. That's the funny thing. I studied this. I did this for a living at one time. You know? That's how, like, me and gaming and testing got to be. You know, I was just an average gamer at one time, but I got caught exploiting some stuff because I was aware of modifiers and stuff. And it was just like, hey, you know, would you like to, you know, do some testing for us as a private tester, you know, from home, whatever. I was like, yeah, sure, I guess. I've got my hand smacked a time or two in the past, whatever. So I was like, you know, I mean, okay, cool, you know, I'm down. And then I had that. Then I tested also for SOE and some other stuff. And then those devs left. And then I went tested. I also tested for Fable, the RPG game. So, you know, for Microsoft when they owned the studio at one time, I tested a couple things for them in the past. I tested for multiple MMO companies, all of them except Blizzard, most of them. And why? Because I'd find the bugs, right? They were like, what would you exploit? What would you exploit in our game? Pretty much the question. That becomes the question. What would you exploit? I'm like, yeah, well, I'd exploit this completely, fucking for sure. Totally. Because here we have diminishing return, but you still have a multiplier, right? He's just like, so fuck the DR. Let me give me the fucking multiplier, and now I'm gonna take the stat and scale it up the fucking roof, and it doesn't change. And I didn't want to get that way here. I didn't. But as soon as I seen the false god, I'm like, fuck you. And then they're gonna nerf. Fuck you too. Fuck you guys. Matt should know this. I tested for Matt's games, so you know, whatever. And then these content creators are the elite. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. They still don't understand indifferent value, and they're the elite. Please. How many builds of mine did Zoss nerf, Irish? A fucking slew. They fucking have nerfed multiple builds of mine over and over. It's not fair. It's not fucking fair. And I don't want to get toxic. I don't chase certain things. I'm trying to stay humble. I'm just trying to stay grounded. I'm trying to just play and provide nice content. You know, whatever. I'm trying to be a good boy. I can get toxic. I know me. I know me better than most people. I can get so fucking ridiculous.
The transmute fog spell turned out more useful than I thought. I would never have
I don't want to be like that. Roz, got to get back to work, but have a great day. Careful, Zynode is doing dagger thing as well. Fuck that. I mean, I could the dagger thing. I could see putting on maybe a Templar because it's spammable. Any other class? No. Maybe I should cover it, but I don't want to. I don't want to be like out like that, man. We did it. We did dual wield before as casters But like I said, I mean, why do you think ZeniMax brought back the light attack shit into the CP? But it's slaughtable, but it like I said. I mean, I don't want to get a certain way for sure. I wouldn't do it. That'll be a cold day in hell before I give up 8%. That'll be a cold day in hell.
Ideate, you've saved. Feel not exact.
Like I said, I'm not trying to pay attention to what everybody's doing, but whatever. I mean, these guys will not Zai. I'm just saying people. People will still like be like, oh, you know, we Stamp can't do this, Stamp can't do that, and I'm like. Yesterday, I was just like, yo, fuck you guys. I'll force damage. I'm aware of what I can do. I'm not trying to promote it like that, really, to be honest. But, I mean, I'll do it. I mean, I will. I will. You know? And you'll have the masses. You will have the masses following it like fucking pigeons. Like I said, they had False God for 2 years. Not one of them thought about pairing it with Kina? Not one? Not fucking Uno? I was like, are you guys fucking stoned? Have you lost your fucking marbles? Shit. Hand that bitch over. Give that bitch to me. We'll see how I can really get on some stupid shit. But like I said, I'm not trying to cut on anybody, that's for sure. I'm not trying to be like, but as far as I kind of am actually. It's not the brightest thing in the book. Like I said, I could see putting it on a Templar because light attacking during that spam is next to impossible. Right? You could put it on a Templar very easily, but to give up that light attack, you know, between spammables. You know, when done properly on an Inferno staff, you're losing 8% towards all of your damaging effects. Now, would I still put daggers on a Templar? No. If anything, what I would do on the Templar is actually stack his critical damage bonus, is what I would do, and push for the 50% critical in other factors. Why? Because then my output, my base remains high. Now my damage modifier is succeeded. Like I said, people fuck up Magplar left and right. But I would put axes if I was going to dual wield. If I was going to. Yes, because, you know, the swords give you X amount. And that's a factor as well. So, man, I got tons of shit on everybody. But, you know, like I said, I mean, I'm not trying to rag or pick. I guess I actually do you know whatever. Zai I'm just really cool with. I never want to go there. He's my boy for life. But I just wouldn't do it. I know ways of getting around certain things. Maintaining the best that I can. I don't want to get to a certain point where there's no return back for me. That's my big deal. Been there for years. That's a hard one to walk back from. Alright. I really do gotta clean up this dude's bags though. Ross, they like nerfing the wrong things. Yeah, they do. You know, that's the big deal, isn't it? You know, well, I mean, the thing about it is, you know, when they're gonna nerf, stuff, they've got to understand. Some players will try to hold on to that, right? They'll hold on to it so desperately. And I won't fuck with them. I'll just be like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just exploit your fucking system at this point. I try to play nice. I try to play to the numbers and the way that you designed it. And I tried not to, you know, teach bad habits and, you know, and tell people, hey, you know what? Fuck the pen. Fuck this, you know. I try to do it to the best optimal way without compromising the integrity of the game, you know. But at some point in time, even I'm going to get beyond fed up. And I'm going to be like, look, I'm not playing your games, man. I'm not going to do it. While everybody else is still chasing best in slot, I'll just say, fuck it. And their dreams of it. Oh, my panties are wet. I'm creaming over this. It's like, man, seriously, you guys hold on so tight.
The man.
I'll promote people too, whatever. I just don't like to promote ignorance. I'm against that. Educate yourselves, man. Get educated. Raise your bar. Don't live by their standards. Trust me. That's a low those are low standards. And then if you don't become too arrogant either in the pursuit of knowledge. That's the biggest trick, right? Becoming arrogant in the process.
Serves the masters.
Set it ablaze! Now you die! Light it up! Over there, it's Maril.
Sudarim, I thought you were dead. They came in the night, overwhelmed us.
Who did this? Where's Atavar?
I don't know. Atavar and Falor ran further in when we were attacked.
Atavar, where are you?
Holy divines! Look at the size of that thing.
First the blood leak, now a gargoyle. That settles it. Vampires.
What's the daily?
Vampires. You think
Yesterday's
they know
daily,
what
right?
they're dealing with?
Yeah.
If not, they're in for a painful lesson. Set it ablaze!
Sudarim escaped.
Yes, Gracie. The Whisperer is gone.
Oh,
You can't be real.
can't be real. I was going to rescue you. Voice.
It's over, Branson. You can rest now.
Boss, I don't think he's listening.
You are. You're one of her illusions. I won't let you stop us.
Why is nothing ever easy?
Join my nightmare. Do you see?
Where are these dudes going?
No, no, this is all wrong.
Sure. I'll kill it. Noobs.
I don't want you to see anymore. Get out of here.
Pathetic.
Aid me!
Fucking morons.
I won't be alone. I'll take care of this myself.
away from me. What the hell, man?
But you didn't deserve this. Did you hear that? There's someone alive over here. Help me get this cocoon open.
Spindle clutch belongs to the dead.
Maybe I should do a dagger special. Now that I think about it, so I want to get to be a real asshole again. Questionable. And speaking of, with the Templar, technically I could go ahead, run the same setup, switch to the crit, use the axes. Would I put it on everybody? No. I just exploit that passive. And then I would take the Mage Mundus instead. It's over. Sudarine.
Atavar, where are you?
I don't like this.
Wake up. Wake up.
Have to agree with the elf boss. There's some serious magic here. This place screams ambush.
Ambush.
Ambush. Lovely idea.
Still alive. Come. Speak us of your sorrows.
Flip. What we do. I guess, like, hold on. We're gonna have a black screen for a second. So let me go ahead. I'm gonna open up the other client, the PTS client. So, kind of go over this just for a second and why I would only do this on a Templar. And why I would set this up differently. And everything can be always set up differently, right? Because you have to realize every class and every race, those stats are different. And I'm not saying you can't dual wield, but if you throw everything statistically on this, on a similar scenario, you're fucking up left and fucking right. And that's why I don't take certain content creators so seriously. To me they are a joke. So, all right. You know. All right. Alright, so now we're going to create a new plar. We're going to go max. Male. We're going to go once again with the high elf, because that's what my plar was. And we won't. just for whatever purposes. All right. Skip it. Oh. I guess I'll just, like I said, I'll go over all of this to the best of my abilities. Why I don't set up everybody the same. Why certain things I do and certain things I don't. So my biggest goal is to always stay between 55 and 60. I never exceed, ever. You know. And I try to exploit, or not even at that point exploit, take advantage of the statistical modifiers. It's not exploiting it as small as it is kind of, but it's just being aware of how the multipliers have stacking effects, right? And how each class and race have to have a separate. That's why they keep saying this is the best class and this is the best race, because they honestly don't know how to apply a secondary set appropriately. Like I put Hunting's on my Wood Elf yesterday. Why? Because he doesn't have a base weapon damage, you know. Lost connection to the lobby. Might not be able to do it. We'll see. Might be bringing it down, but anyways, the whole point of it is once you realize these factors, once you understand those principles, right? Because there are in different values, right? So you're taking what a class doesn't have from its initial passives or its racial passives, slotting it appropriately as a base plate, you know, for a secondary set using what we call a primary set. So in this essence, I'm using False God as a primary set across the board to take advantage of Malakina. So that's what I'm trying to illustrate. So the biggest thing that I'm already aware of with the Templar specifically is this factor. Let me go ahead and scale it. Okay. Increase your critical damage by 10% is piercing spears with an Adric spear ability slotted. So that's the kicker. But it's not a problem because guess what we use? We use this as a spammable. Now, while you're spamming this, you can't really utilize, right, a light attack during the channel because it's a channel effect, right? So when you're jabbing it, you know, it has its limitations as far as weaving. You can't weave during animation. So putting a staff on this is less productive. But would I use daggers? No, I wouldn't. Because what I would end up doing, now that would also lose 8% across the board. So what I want to do is do what? Capitalize on the critical factor, the 10%, and add to that fact. Not increase to the critical rating, but increase to what? The damage modifier itself. So, prime example, we'll go into the supplies. Grab some transmutation stones. Because guess what I don't need? I'm not going to need extra spell damage or magicka. I need more magicka, right, than whatever. Because my other ability scales up from my max magicka. So I want to also keep that in mind, but increase spell damage. Okay, so when we go to armor and jewelry, we're going to go to Overland Sets. Now, this is kind of coincidental because somebody asked me would I use Night Mothers, you know, with this. Not for any class, but maybe this because a critical factor. So I would use Night Mothers in this set. And then what I would honestly do is do the Trowel set. Now, would I set this configuration up on anybody else? No, because it's based on the passives, right? That it's based on that. I would not put the same configuration on anything else. Nothing. So, now I still have to perform 2 light attacks, but I have to do that on lightning side. So that's a trick. You have to lightning out and then apply. Lightning out, apply. Lightning out, apply. So AoEs go down, dual wield, proc up, boom, on the spammable side. So all the setups got to be set up differently based on what? Proc effect. So I said everything's got to be set up different, but to maximize. So I think we got everything on that end. So we're going to go ahead and grab up the Kina. We're going to go to the other Overland set. And then we would grab up Mother Sorrow. And I would grab the weapons and the jewelry. Okay. I think they have 2. We'll find out. Okay, so 2 axes. You see this? And they're both precise, which I actually want them that way. Now, it's kind of important that I do this, but I wouldn't want the daggers. Because, once again, I'm trying to hit between 55 and 60. Actually, I'll still have to grab these. To kind of get to illustrate a point. But, okay, trial sets. Okay. All right. Now, I need. I also need that. Staff, lightning staff. Okay, bingo. All right, so prime example here that I get into, and you know, in Mulakina, heavy head and light shoulders. And actually, no, I actually want medium shoulders on this. I do take that back. So I'm going to take a light because we're going to scale max. This is another one where I get away from a 6-1 and go with a 5-1-1. Back to that. And a very important reason why, because I want to scale max Magicka, and the Undaunted passive allows me to do that. So this setup would be completely different because of why? Because I'm scaling max Magicka and I'm trying to approach the critical rating value of at least 55%. Okay. So we want a medium divine. We want an infused heavy. I think that's about it. All right, I think we got everything. Now, primary bar, I'm going to take axes, and I'm going to keep the precise on them, right? I'm going to keep it. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool, because I'm not going to scale the max spell damage like I would whatever, because I want to scale max Magicka, but I still need spell damage because it's a 10-to-1 conversion, but I want to keep a very high Magicka due to my finisher. But I'm going to take advantage of these axes nonetheless, because in dual wield, when we go to twin blade and blunt, each axe increases your critical damage by 4%. That's giving us what? Right? That's an 8% bonus, right? And then on top of it, we go back to the passive, to the Adric Spears, and we increase our critical damage by 10. So now we have an 18%, 18% I wanted to say it was 2, but maybe it is 4. Let me look at the 2H. Maybe that'll... yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we're good. So 18% into our critical damage modifier by using axes. I wouldn't want to use the daggers. Oh, duh. So if I was going to do that, and in this setup, I would do that. I would totally utilize this type of configuration on a Plar. So we go with the heavy head. We go with our false god, whatever. We go with a medium Kina. That'll increase our max pull. Okay. Now, I would drop my critical rating a little bit from that. Now, I would keep the arcane. I wouldn't want to get rid of it. Because why? Because of max magicka. Why? Because I'm scaling the max magicka also on the Plar. I don't want to infuse these, actually. That's the one thing I don't want to do. That's kind of an important element as well. Okay, so we have two critical rating sets. We still have the Kina. And let me put the lightning staff on. Okay. Let me go ahead now and finish out the bar. Now, basically, it's the same principle in a lot of ways. We want to keep AoEs to the back. Why? Because of the 8% bonus, right, to our AoEs. That doesn't change as well either. Now, also, in the Undaunted, which we have to get something anyways, we'll see that we're exploiting or maximizing that max pull, right? Every other race, every other class doesn't need that so dramatically, but it does come in handy. Okay. And of course, we're going to put a our spears. Now, I want blazing because I want the increased damage versus. So we got 3 AoE effects, right? Which is really nice, and we have 2 synergies. This is a DPS, this is a healer. So I can have both of these, but they do share the same global cooldown for utilities. Okay, very important to remember that. Very important indeed. We're going to put our spammable over here. And then, of course, we're going to utilize... I might actually arrange that one other way. We want our backlash. Typically, I would say... actually, I would probably put the backlash on this... No, on this bar. That's how I would set it up. So we want the purifying light because guess what? We can copy the damage. So we're going to put that. We're going to put this, that, put the neurotic orbs in the back. Well, make sure the durations or whatever, 10, 10, 10, and I think the other one's 10. But they did nerf the speed of the orbs, but that's fine. I mean, okay. So we have that effect as well. Now, what this allows me to do is put a dot in my finisher and then stack my max magicka with the inner light. Okay, so with the dots, there's 2 options you can go here if you're going to pot or not. That becomes more essentially the question at hand. Because if I'm going to pot, I could go with the Sunfire, right? You know, blast an enemy, which gives us our major prophecy, and then I can go with the Mage's Guild. All right. Now, if I do that, I don't need the people would say you don't need the inner light, right? Because you're getting the major prophecy. But people have to remember what I'm essentially doing is scaling max magicka for my finisher, because my finisher still has to go on this bar, right? So is my radiant destruction. So you heal for a percentage of the damage, deals more damage in proportion to current magicka. So radiant depression becomes the kill spot for a lot of whatever. So the only question now I have to ask is, do I want the bonus, the dual bonus for recovery in proportion? Because if I go with let's do the damage lasts over a longer duration, this is really good for the spammable, right? So if I don't need a lot of recovery, it's really, really good. So we'll do that in comparison with the degeneration from the Mage's Guild, right? And I'm not gonna whatever, but what we want to do is take a look at the damage output versus the duration. So it's 11,000 damage, where this is 10, but this has a direct damage up front, right? That's pretty much the big difference. So it's like, okay, do I want the damage up front or do I want that recovery for the passive? That becomes optional. So one of the biggest things I like to do, let's say I stay with that, I like to do everything in its succession. So we're going to put the Vampire's Bane right here. We're going to put our Biting Jabs here. Now also keep in mind, it's important that we realize what the passive says. Increase your critical while it is slotted, right? So we already have the Blazing and we have this. That allows us a little bit more free momentum into our ulties. Now I'm going to put the inner light on this bar. Why? To scale my max magicka even further. So, and then of course on the back bar I'll have 2 slots, so I can also put, guess what, my Psijic ability. So no, yeah. So what I want to do, right here. So that's kind of whacked out. So that should be over here. So my Vampire Bane goes here. My spammable will go here. My Radiant Oppression would go here. My Inner Light so early would go here. My Psijic Order ability, Race Against Time, would go there. No. Right? So you kind of got to see that I kept the bar very simplistic, but I scaled appropriately. And then on this back bar, we also put that Inner Light to scale the damage, or we could put another effect. But with this rotation, it's pretty much, just scale it. Just scale the shit out of it. Now, what I like to use for a single target finisher on the Plar is the Soul Strike. Okay? I deal a shitload of damage. So this is my ulti, then I burn. I use this versus for single target. Okay? That's me. Increases the damage and duration of the number of ticks. Shatter Soul, don't do it. Just do the Soul Assault. That is a fucking... This hits 56 prior to proc. It's insane on a Magplar. I'm not even done. And then I usually go with like Mage's Guild, Alti. I usually go with the ranged. So I'll go with the Icy Comet for a big, nice hit. Shooting Star actually generates the enemies, but as you can see, the Icy Comet deals a little bit more damage, and the impact is really nice. Or I can even go with the Lightning Staff ulti if I want to. I mean, it all depends on the regeneration at this point. But Lightning Staff ulti is insanely powerful too. So, you know, because I'm on top of things, you know, I can literally, and I'll get a fortification with the minor protection as I'm jabbing and healing at the same time. I just got to avoid mechanics. So I can do Eye of the Storm, right? Or I can go with the Elemental Rage. I prefer the Elemental Rage. That's me. But no, that's supposed to be on that bar. So this is supposed to be over here, and the Soul Assault is supposed to be on the single bar. Okay. So now we have that in proportion. Now we're getting double critical modifier. And now when we take a look at prior to a Mundus application, we're 31 and 18 on the health. Now this is prior to CP, but our critical is already at 53. It's already at 53. By the time I hit it, I'm over the 55. You see where I'm coming with that at this? I'm already at that sweet spot. Why? I already knew ahead of time. It's math. It's just math. So we're going to go ahead and apply into this. And then what would we do? Well, we would go ahead. I would take minimum into this, but, you know, I'm just kind of, you know, whatever. We'll apply the, you know, the status effect to just kind of, you know, associate. But we're dealing a lot of AoE damage. So I would obviously want to go ahead, put into the Thaumaturge, for example. But then everything else becomes about what? Max statting our magical pool in proportion. Right? And then we have to decide, do we want to, you know, utilize our critical modifier even further? Well, no, we don't need to. We need to increase what? More upfront damage. So we can go with direct damage. We can go with damage done with area of effects, right? Or single target. But at this particular moment, I've already put into Thaumaturge. So what I want to do now, because I'm going to be scaling Max Magicka, I would associate the max spell damage even further and exploit these modifiers based on the proc from Kina. So we have our max pools, we have our statics, and we have our Thaumaturge, right, for our damage over time due to our jabs. All right, so, and then of course our resistance changes based on this template. Now when we come back in, we're at 33,000 max magicka, and magic recovery is 1246. Now also we can go back into the CP system, associate this as well. Okay. So we have that, and I'll get everything, but we would put that in. That would raise this. Now we're going to eat our food, and then based on that we adjust what our spell damage, but keeping it arcane because of our max pool. Now I go we'll go to my house, and then I'm going to drop into the Mage Mundus, scaling even higher. So that's a very, very important factor, because I want that finisher to hit as high as possible, and I don't want to go ahead and assume that I build the classes in the same manner. I can still use a core set, a core combination, and for this, False God and Kina is the association. But when I take a look at scaling purposes and those effects, I want to do it appropriately. So now when I come into my character sheet, my crit is already at 54.
Now, mind you, if a sorcerer's with me, I exceed the 55. I'm good. I'm solid. I've kept precise weapons. I've used 2 crit sets. I didn't need to go with the daggers. I've scaled considerably high. And by the time I'm done, I'm going to be at a 37,000 max magicka pool with, what, over 6,000 spell damage? Something like that. So, oh, it's down. Why do I keep coming up? It's just a habit. Okay, so we're gonna go to the Mage. Okay. Now, first thing I notice is I'm at 5,000 magicka. I'm good on my pen. Now, not over pen. And I'm, what, exploiting it. Now I have 36,000 max magicka. Right? My core spell damage is 31. But when we proc up, now we're at 34. Now this is going to scale higher because now I'm going to apply my food buffs. So we're going to go back into the inventory. Consumables. Need enchantments. Tester's lunchbox. Of course, we're going to use Witch Mothers. Now, if I was a Breton, I would switch the food. You know, I could do that with the Breton. I wouldn't need recovery. I could go max. You know. Now we should be around 39, 40. So we now exceeded with the 40,000. We have 29. We can get more survivability. Our critical value is at a very nice, comfortable position. We've adjusted base modifiers. Our recovery still looks good. You know, at this point, I would have to ask myself, you know, do I feel comfortable with this particular setup, you know, as is? Possibly. You know, I could possibly just leave it like this and keep that arcane, right? But the biggest thing that you're going to notice in my tooltips now, right, is the simple fact that now I have my minor force, which gives me more critical. So we add the 10 on top of the 10, that's 20. Add the axes. Now we have a 28% crit modifier. Okay. It's now at a 28% critical modifier. And now our Soul Assault is dealing 77,000 over 6 seconds. Right? And now also our finisher is at 9,642 because we maintained that effect. Okay? And then all of our AoEs are scaled more appropriately. You know, due to these factors. And now also our Purifying Light copies up to 24,000 damage. So, and then of course when we proc up, and we go back in, it's still the same. It doesn't change, but everything else will. Now basically the whole idea is, if I, let's say if I lay down, I didn't fix that. See, now we're hitting 43 on our crit, right? Damage.
So basically, that's kind of the most important thing is as I proc up and I hit this, we're hitting that 43. 41, 43, 44. Okay. Now, if I go to daggers, my crit chance goes up, but essentially that damage goes down. So it's the same thing. We're going to proc up. Hit. And you'll see the drop. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. What I'm doing is I'm stacking the multipliers. Yes, I'm critting more frequently, but I'm dealing less damage. That's how that goes. Okay? I'm just using this as an example. So by utilizing the axes and stacking the effects, right, on this particular, not that I would give up the 8%, whatever, and I'll probably show that as well. What I'm essentially doing is saying I want to stack the critical damage. So for example, my dot is 517, hit 1423. 1423. There's the crit. 24. 24. 1423. 24. 24. See the big crits. Right? But 1423 is what we're dealing in proportion to utilizing an Inferno staff. Now let me go ahead and get that staff out. Alright, so it's still going to be precise. Nothing's going to change on this either as well. And what you'll notice is I'll do more damage with the ability, but the crit will actually be less. Right? Oh, I'm doing more. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm dealing more damage with the Inferno. But look, the crit's less. You see where I'm coming from? I get more damage from the Inferno staff on single target than any effect because of its bonus. But I lose out on that crit because the axes multiply my stacking effect. Okay? 1451. 1451. That's a higher than 1423. 2-3 though. 2-3. I was doing 2-4. Okay? I just like walking over this stuff. So by utilizing the axes and knowing that I'm a Templar, right? I'm giving up that upfront bonus, right? If I wanted to, of the Inferno staff's 8% to deal more critical damage. 2447, 1423. So I lose the non-crit association damage for not using my Inferno, but because I'm stacking the critical modifier, my critical modifier jumps because I'm stacking it. And then if I proc up and hit, now we're dealing significantly more. And that's the power of Kina. And then I maintain all of my bonus damage for my max scaling of Magicka, not compromising my critical sweet spot. Anyways, like I said, if people think they know, I assure you they don't. I assure you they do not. So would I put daggers on a caster? No. Would I even put daggers on a Templar? No. I would, if I was going to dual wield, in which I have that option, I would take advantage of that critical bonus. Right? Stacking it. Okay. Knowing, though, I would be giving up on this effect and this. Just, you know what I'm saying? Well, I mean, it's direct, but its critical rating would go up. So the critical ratings would go up, but I would gain more for stacking the effect without compromising base damage too much. But I would compromise a little base to exploit the stacking effect from the critical modifier. Okay. So no, I am not a meta player. I never fucking will be. Okay? I just won't. Sorry. Good luck. You've been schooled, meta players, again and again and again. You're not even in my league. And I'm trying to be whatever. I'm just trying to be relaxed more days, not trying to get too toxic, but you're not even in my league. You never were. Peace.